fun-loving rats. Isn't that cute? Yeah. Well, be that as it may, where people are concerned, no matter how hard it might be, finding something good to say about someone else is definitely worth the effort. It may even uncover something good that's been buried and forgotten. About 15 years ago, I received a letter from a young man I had known in a country town. Now, I'll call him Rick, although that's not his real name. But Rick was applying for a job, and he asked me if I would write him a reference to go with his application. No doubt he wanted his potential employer to be impressed with his good character. My problem was that I knew through other people that Rick very rarely ever kept a job for more than a few weeks at a time, and that the money he earned supported a marijuana habit. So, I procrastinated for a while, and a while, and then I remembered an incident from this young man's primary school days. I had visited his school to pick up my son, who was in the same class, and while I was there, I went to the school office to pay some fees. As we were leaving, Rick came running after us, shouting, "You dropped this!" It was a $5 note that I had accidentally dropped out of my purse when I opened it in the corridor. I hadn't even noticed that I'd dropped it, so he could very easily have just kept it. He was also, I remembered, a very helpful child. When there was the school fete or the school concert, Rick was the boy who was running around helping the teachers. So I wrote a reference focused on his honesty and also on his potential as a good team member. But I remember also that when I posted it off, I had fingers crossed. It wasn't until about a year later that a letter came from Rick. As near as I can remember, it went like this: "I'm writing to tell you that I got the job and it's going well. But I have to admit to you now that when I asked you for a reference, I had no intention of working for anyone. My mum made me ask you for the reference. I was just applying for a job so I could keep the doll. But when I got your reference, it made me feel ashamed. You made me remember good things about myself. You reminded me that I wasn't just a deadhead. I'm starting an apprenticeship on Monday, and I thought you'd like to know." Speaking good about others. And of course, it made me feel good too. Third, speaking good of ourselves. The most severe and unrelenting critic that any of us can have is ourselves. If I asked you, you could probably come up with a long list of hurtful, destructive names for other people. They might include wog, spaz, fatso, nigger, schizo, bimbo, pufta, refo, lebo, and abo. The names themselves sound ugly, don't they? And every one of them carries truckloads of contempt for the person who is named like that. And yet, there are other words that are probably more hurtful and more destructive than any of those. The words I'm referring to are, I'm useless, I'm stupid. Let me tell you about David. I heard David's story from his brother Bill. They are successful businessmen and they're still active members of their church. They grew up with loving and positive parents. They did well in the classroom, they were good at sport, they had lots of friends. But then David, who was the younger, came under the influence of a harshly critical schoolteacher. During his year in grade 6, he changed from an outgoing, confident and happy child into a withdrawn, anxious and thoroughly unhappy person. His parents simply couldn't understand it. And when they asked him what's wrong, he would just say, nothing, nothing. The problem was that he had been brought up to respect his teachers. And so he believed it when the teacher said he was a hopeless, stupid boy who would never amount to anything. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow was spot on when he wrote those words, "A torn jacket is soon mended. Harsh words bruise the heart of a child." Well, the whole thing came to a head when David's family had dinner in a restaurant to celebrate his mother's birthday. And all was going well until David accidentally tipped over his drink onto the white tablecloth. He leapt up from the table and raced out the door into the car park. When his father and his brother Bill caught up with him, he was lying on the bonnet of the car, pounding it with his fists and saying over and over again, "I'm stupid, I'm stupid." Bill says the only time he ever saw their father blow his top was right then. "No," he shouted, "no! No one calls my son stupid, not even my son." It wasn't long before David's father discovered just who had been calling his son stupid. And in time, David was able to recover his self-esteem through the healing power of good words. Good words have the power to bring life, health, strength, and peace. Speaking good to others, speaking good about others, speaking good to ourselves. Those are the words that bring God's peace to our souls. Thanks be to God. Amen.